Rising family, welcome to another session in the Rise Summit. I am honored to have today Rhonda Britten with us. She is an Emmy Award winner, repeat Oprah guest, and has been named America's favorite life coach. She is devoted to bring the neuroscience of fear down to earth by sharing the path she developed to save her own life. As the first life coach on television in the world, Rhonda has changed lives in over 600 episodes of reality television and is best known for her work on the hit daytime reality show Starting Over. And she was named its most valuable player by the New York Times. With over 150,000 books sold, she is the author of 4 national bestsellers, including her groundbreaking book on fear, Fearless Living. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. I think that your topic is not only common for, may I say, all of us, especially, right? Especially in these times.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's more, I always say it's more evident in this time, right? It's more evident. We're more aware of it during this time, but it's always with us. You know, you can't get rid of fear. There's no getting rid of fear. And if anyone ever says to you, let's get rid of fear, or let's, you'll never have to feel fear again, just ask them when the lobotomy is, because neurobiology, no, can't happen. So yes, right now, people are more awake and aware of how fear is in their lives.
Right. And it's probably more collective, so it amplifies it even more, right? And of course, it's been pushed so much by the media and all of that. So it kind of seems like even overwhelming collectively.
Yeah, I think everybody is dripped in it right now, right? We just got through a few years of, a pandemic. We're having worldwide strife, right? In America, we're having strife. So there is just a opening and awakening. And as we all know, we believe that the awakening is happening. We're getting more open, we're getting more awake. Well, in that, as you know, we have to go through our fears in order for us to reach that, in order for us to move through that. So most people aren't aware of their fears. I wasn't for most of my life. I never said I was afraid or I was scared. I mean, that was never even discussed in my family. I remember the first time somebody said, well, it sounds like you're afraid. And I looked at them like they were crazy, because I'm not afraid or scared. So the fact that I talk about fear now, specialize in fear now, is really, if you would have known me when I was growing up, you would have never thought that was possible, right? So I think that I, like so many people, wasn't aware of my fear, didn't realize I had fear. I was blind to my fear because I just thought they were problems, right? Like, well, I just have this problem that I don't feel good enough. I have this problem that I procrastinate. I have this problem that I have anxiety. I have this problem that I get overwhelmed, right? So we have a tendency to blame ourselves, right? To beat ourselves up, to put ourselves down, and think there are flaws, right? Think there are weaknesses, think there are the things we have to fix about ourselves. When in reality, all of those things stem from fear.
I absolutely agree. I had a very visceral experience once on plant medicine where I had very tangible reality of love and fear. And it was one or the other as the foundation for all other energies and feelings. Am I right? And everything that we experience as the negative frequency derives from fear.
Yeah. And if we could just actually eliminate the word negative, right? If we could eliminate negative from our vocabulary, we'd automatically have less fear. But because we name it negative, somehow that's bad, right? So anger is negative. I remember a client said to me once on one of the sessions, like, oh, my husband's so negative. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, he came home and he's just telling me about this guy that had a heart attack at work, and it's just so negative. And I go, that's not negative. That's actually just reality. He's just telling you about his day. And I think people use the word negative to stop them from actually being in relationship with themselves. So, I'm a big advocate to, let's just put that word aside, because all feelings, just like you said a minute ago, they're fear or love, right? The challenge is, as you know, that love for many of us is driven by fear. So many of us are loving out of fear, and we actually haven't had enough experience or enough grounding or enough practice what love really looks like from a fearless perspective, from a freedom perspective. So we name things negative, when like anger can, I always say anger can serve fear or freedom. Jealousy can serve fear or freedom. So let's stop cutting off parts of ourselves and embrace our wholeness, right? Because that truly is a freedom act and a very loving act. And when we do that, we can actually build a relationship with ourselves and start seeing ourselves, because we accept our feelings. We can then finally say to ourselves, oh, I think I am afraid, right? I think I'm afraid, and start seeing how feelings generate, like you said, from love or fear, and what I'd say freedom or fear, because again, most people generate love out of fear. And if we can start seeing the world through fear, freedom and fear, everything gets a lot easier, and we don't feel so crazy, and we don't feel so stupid, and we don't feel so lost, right? And we don't feel like we're drowning.
Yeah, I hear you. And I've been having the same thought about the word negative, except for me, if you look at mathematics and you look at the positive numbers and the negative numbers, they're just a linear scale of opposites. It's really when we attach the good and bad onto the world, that's where the problem is, right? So when we say negative is bad, that's where the problem is. Negative is just negative. It's a frequency that is vibrating on the other side of the scale. But when we judging it as negative or positive, as good or bad, that's where the problem lies, right? So in terms of energy,
yes,
right, in terms of vibration, some vibrations have that negative frequency, right?
I just think that, most of us don't go around saying negative frequency is where we get challenged, right? We don't quantify it. We don't have context to it. Instead, we just say negative or positive. But yeah, just like numbers, you're absolutely right. And what I like to believe is what you're believing, is it what you're saying, is what you're moving through supporting you and being more open, more loving, more kind? Is it helping you be more whole in yourself, more self-accepting, more I am enough, right? All of those lovely things that we all want. Is those thought patterns and those energy fields supporting you in doing that? Or is it making you believe, the other stuff about yourself? And we, on a moment by moment basis, are interpreting that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we have the choice, right? It's really just being aware first and foremost that there are fears that navigate our thoughts, behaviors, actions. And then my question to you is how can we work with the fears? How can we overcome them? How can we get rid of them?
Well, there is no getting rid of them, right? There is transcending them. There is befriending them. They're moving past them, gaining mastery over them, because fear is just really a way that we process emotion, as we've talked about already, right? Fear is just if you think of fear as the base emotion out of overwhelm, most overwhelm is based in fear. Most jealousy is based in fear, right? When we're looking at through the lens of, is it fear or freedom? Most of us, we get jealous because we're afraid underneath. So we have all these feelings, we have all these things we call our problems, procrastination, overwhelm, anxiety, right? And we think these are all our problems. But if we really start noticing that they really stem from our base fear, they are, the root is fear. Then what we can do is go, oh, okay, I'm beating myself up, I'm judging myself, I'm putting myself down because I'm overwhelmed, or because I procrastinated, or because I think I'm not worthy, all these things. And if we can go, okay, wait a minute, those are just symptoms, then if they come from a fear-based thinking, a fear-based feeling, a fear-based filter and seeing the world, then if I go there, I can shift everything on, I can shift all my issues. So I think what happens for most people is they actually believe they're bad press about themselves, right? They actually believe, oh my God, I just wish I could quit procrastinating. It's like, well, what if you actually put procrastination aside and actually saw procrastination as a symptom of fear, then we could really talk about what it is that you're afraid of, what it is that you are avoiding writing that book. What is it that you're saying to yourself in order for you to open that business? What is it in order for you to get vulnerable with your mate or to fall in love, right? Those really, the core fear that we have is actually driving us. And fear in and of itself is just here to keep us safe. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it was formed, it's formed, it's part of our brain. So it's not getting rid of it. But, the way we are trained, the way we are raised, the way the brain works is focused on fear. That's what it does. And so if we think that the game we play in ourselves, our little, our head game in ourselves, trying to fight it, figure it out and stuff like that, we're actually not embracing the way our system really works. So we want to actually embrace, okay, wait a minute. Fear is part of our neurobiology. Okay. So how can I embrace my fear? How can I love my fear? How can I accept my fear? And one of the first things to do is start recognizing how your brain works. A lot of our fears are handed down through our DNA. We haven't even had an experience, because a lot of people, as I'm sure you're highly aware, is most people spend a lot of their time looking for why they're the way they are. And, why am I afraid to love? Why can't I make money? Why? And we go and look for the story to make sense of it. Now, we all love we love our stories. Of course, it creates who we are, right? Yet, if we start recognizing, like, wait a minute, my boyfriend breaking up with me when I was 12 did not create my fear of rejection. My fear of rejection was developed by the time I was 5. And if we can quit, quote unquote, searching for the why, and instead start embracing the mechanics of how our brain works, then we can use the power of our brain to move beyond it. So I think the first thing is when people are trying to fight their emotional life, fight their, think something's wrong with them, blame themselves, beat themselves up, all of that just compounds the shadow in front of their eyes that they can't see clearly. So negative self-talk, fear-based, right? There is, you giving me your bad press about yourself is not humble, is not, you thinking, you're not being selfish. Beating yourself up is just fear on patrol. It's just fear on display. And so you get to decide through like you said, the word choice. I love that word. I call them choice points. Every day, all day long, you have choice points. And what filter do you want to look at the world through? Because that's really how we change our life. We can sit here and change beliefs. We can sit here and change thoughts. We can do all those things that are nice and lovely and wonderful. But neuroscience says the real way, the only way to truly, ultimately revolutionary change the way we see the world is through our filter. And so what filter are you looking through? And most of us are looking through the filter of, fear, i.e., easy way to say that is the world against you or for you. And we all are smart enough, right? We're all smart enough to know that the answer should be the world is for me. But when we look at our lives, what areas of our lives are we really behaving, thinking, feeling, etc., that the world's against us? So when we believe the world's against us, we know that we're driven by fear. So how can we love ourselves through that rather than judge ourselves, beat ourselves up? It's natural and normal to be afraid whenever we're moving through our what I call the stretch, risk, or die zone. It's normal. That's the path. That's the bridge we must cross.
Yeah, I love what you just said. There is so much in it, and it's really about recognizing the fears for what they are, that they are the filters that we received probably through epigenetics, probably from our lineage, right? Some of it is not even ours in this lifetime, although we also have our own build-up fears according to our, upbringing and experiences. Yeah. And so we have those fears. And first of all, we accept ourselves where we are with those fears and radical self-acceptance, so we can move through them. And more self-love, right? Because love is the antidote for fear. Where you bring love, fear kind of already dissipates, right? And that's the work. That's the work we doing on a day-to-day basis, on a, as you said beautifully, choice points.
Yeah,
right?
it's minute by minute basis, right?
Mhm.
Because, you know, it's like we all know the right words, right? You and I, we, you know, all of our students come to us, our clients come to us. They've read books, they've gone to classes. They all know the right words. They all know that they should love themselves and accept themselves. They all know the right thing to do. But the challenge is that they still believe the lies that fear tells them. And so, you know, how do you, quote unquote, move beyond those lies? Well, first of all, you have to break the illusion, right? You have to break the illusion. You have to become more aware. And awareness for so many people is frightening in and of itself, right? Because when we become more aware, we become more aware of everything, right? And we want to become more aware because we want to become masterful. But then that awareness brings up a painful feeling. It brings up a painful memory. And all of a sudden, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think that. It's like, well, you don't get to decide that. You don't get to decide if what you want is to transcend fear. If you want, if what you want is to become masterful, if you want joy, if you want self-acceptance, if you want love, then you must, as you said a minute ago, accept all of you. And that includes that feeling, that memory, etc. And too many people don't have the support they need to be, you know, to be totally frank. They don't have the real support they need to have somebody hold their hand while they're having that feeling or that memory or that experience, so they can move through it in a powerful way and transcend it. People get stopped all the time by, you know, their negative opinions of themselves or their negative opinion of the world, quote unquote, right? Or you know, what they've been told, and they believe it because it's like, feels like it's concrete and it feels like, you know, our feet are stuck in it. I remember the moment when I realized, like, I'd heard it, read the books, you know, knew this was true, but I remember so distinctly the moment when I really realized, like, you know, I got it finally, right? Instead of just saying it, I understood, I got it.
Embodied it.
Like, it went in my being, right? It like, wah! I remember the moment when I went, I can be anybody I want to be. Like, I really can create who I am in my reality. Now, again, sure, we say that, you know, every teacher says that now on some level, in some way. You can say that all day long, but until you make it a personal experience, until you have that slap on the, what? I remember thinking to myself, wow, I can actually decide what I want to believe. I can actually decide who I am. I can actually decide, you know, my next moment. I can actually decide this moment. Not from a, yes, I can decide, but from a real, like, holy beaners, you know, and that's the awakening point, right? That's the awakening of recognizing the true power we have, not from a, I've read the books and so I know this intellectually, but from a true empowerment, true embodiment. And that's what, you know, we want for our students and our clients. We want them to embody who they really are and not to believe the lies of fear.
Right. And then the most fundamental fears, as far as I see them, I would love your input, is the fear of death as the kind of biggest fear. And then the fear of what other people will say. I feel that that's a very, very valid fear because we have that really core need to feel belong, to feel fitting in, to feel accepted and loved by others. And so the fear of being judged and criticized by others makes us judge and criticize ourselves even more.
Yeah, so there's 10 top fears. And fear of death, I would say, is, we could translate it into the fear of loss or the fear of uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, right? So, you know, the old joke goes that more people have the fear of public speaking than they have of death. So the old joke goes, more people are afraid to give the eulogy than to be the one in the casket, right? So if you know, asked 100 people, most people wouldn't say fear of death, even though that fear of the unknown, right? The fear of loss, that fear permeates our entire life, right? It permeates everything. And like you said, the fear of judgment is also the fear of what other people think of me. Absolutely, because our core need is connection and belonging. It is the number one core need. So that is one of the top 10 fears. So, you know, how do we separate ourselves, you know, from those fears? And the thing that I like to say is freedom and everybody get your pen out because this is important. Freedom equals your capacity to live in the unknown. So you're never can be truly free unless you're completely okay with the unknown. Sure, you can have apprehension. Sure, you can go, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. But it's a true like willingness to step into the unknown. So your ability to live in the unknown equals the amount of freedom that you can experience in this lifetime. And your need to get acceptance also determines where you're going to go, who you're going to meet, what you're going to say. So those fears are so permeated in our system. But when we can see them, as you did, as you so beautiful said, like these are two top fears. It's like, yeah, they sure are. And once we can kind of look at the 10 fears and go, yeah, I got all those, you know, because most of us have all the top 10 fears, right? And that's okay. I don't have to run from it. I don't have to hide from it. I just get to look at it and I get to embrace it. You know, I get to, you know, I always say fear loves you. Fear loves you. It's not trying to hurt you. It's not trying to ruin your life. You know, the brain is wired to look in the past. So the brain is wired to look in the past for a solution, for a present problem to create a different future, right? So the brain is wired. We have a problem right now. Our brain is automatically wired to look in the past for a solution. Now, we all know that the past isn't where our solution is going to be. That's going to create a different future. But that's what we do, right? We automatically look there because that's what we're wired to do. We're wired to look in the past. And so if we can look in the past with ease and grace and love, and there's nothing to fear in the past, we can actually now get in the present moment and be like, okay, now what do I want to create? Because creation for many people is exciting on one hand, but it's petrifying on the other. Right? So most of us will look in the past. And the reason fear does that, the reason our neurobiology does that, is that we're alive right now. You and I are alive. So fear says, well, I've kept her alive all these times. I must be doing an amazing job. And oh, by the way, if she just keeps doing what she's been doing, she'll stay alive. Because there's no difference to the brain between an emotional fear and a physical fear. Zero difference. We respond exactly the same way. So if we can say, okay, wait a minute, fear is literally only trying to keep me alive. It wants me to repeat the past because then it knows I'll be alive because it's worked so far. And anything in the unknown, fear can't guarantee my success. Fear can't guarantee that I'll be okay. Fear can't guarantee that I'll be alive. Okay, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to use my frontal lobe instead of my amygdala and all those fear-based brain, primitive brain, right? I'm willing to go up here, but going up in the frontal cortex, as you know, is exhausting when you first start using it. To make decisions is exhausting. You know, we only have, quote unquote, for the sake of this conversation, you know, let's just say we have 100 units of energy and every decision we make takes units of energy. And if we're making new decisions, making new ways of thinking, new ways of being, then we're using up that energy that way. That's why, you know, Stephen Jobs, right? He wore black all the time. Why? Because he didn't want to make a decision. He didn't want to use his brain power that way. There's a famous writer, and I don't remember his name right now. He has all his food delivered automatically. He has for years before Uber Eats, because that would use his writing power to make a decision about food. Mm-hmm. So we want to decide how to use our energy source. Yes, on one hand, we know it's unlimited, yet there is an energy exchange for our decision making. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we save energy by looking in the past, and that keeps us alive. So we have to be willing to say, okay, well, I don't want the past to make my decisions for me. I want to make, I awake now. I awake right in a minute. I want to decide right now, me right now, I want to wake me right now. And that takes energy.
Right. So we become the driver, right? We placing ourselves in the seat of our decision-making choices, so we can decide, and we can understand that we decide from a place of awareness rather than relying on experience from the past or just on autopilot, just making decisions in that way and utilizing our vital energy that will go, on those choices that if we're not aware. And if we are aware, we can utilize it to make even better choices or create more things in the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't afraid of the unknown, if you weren't afraid of the results, if you weren't afraid of failing, if you weren't afraid of rejection, if you weren't afraid of loss, if you weren't afraid of those top 10 fears, what would you do now? Right? If you would not lose, if you would be successful no matter what, if all those things, if you took away the silent, secret, invisible trickster fear, what would you decide? And most people, if you ask them a series of questions, will start speaking the truth about what they really want, right? Really what who they want to be and what they really want in this world and how they really want to show up. And they get excited and they get inspired. And then the next decision comes up. And then it means saying something different to their spouse, or making a different choice about where to go and eat, or, how do I do A, B, and C? I don't know how to do that. I don't know that skill. I don't know how to, speak in front of a crowd. I don't know how to write a book, right? And all of the unknowns in the world of fearless living, we call it stretch, risk, and dies. Every stretch, risk, and die, the more freedom you have, the more you are aligned with who you really are. Those stretches, risk, and dies are no longer something that stops you. In fact, we walk in with true awareness about them. So instead of, I can't do that, well, what if you could, right? Good old coaching question, like, well, I can't do that. Well, what if you could, right? What if you could? Just a crazy thought. What if you could? And, most people create with a safety net. Most people create with, well, I'll do this. This is a brave choice, but also a safe choice. And that's okay when you're starting out. I say you go for it. But the more and more you feel the freedom of living in your true nature and experience your true passion and being alive, because that's really what we're talking about, is being alive. When you start feeling so alive, if you're like me, which I think most people, we're all similar in the way that we want to feel alive. It's scary to feel alive, by the way, but we want to feel alive. And then we build up a new memory, right? We build up a new way of seeing ourselves. We build up that new filtering system. So now our decisions get easier and easier and easier. But in the beginning, when you're at a choice point, the thing that I say to my students is slow is the new fast. Slow down so that you can actually make a conscious choice. Do not decide in any hurried way. Like, you got to slow down so that you can see the mechanics, so you can see your fear. Because once you slow down and you devote yourself to the process of unmasking fear, you see, you're devoted to going, okay, what is fear of freedom, or freedom and love, fear and love, right? If you can know that love is from a place of freedom, if you can really truly slow down enough to have that, minute experience, that is where all the cliches are, life is lived in the moment, and, we only need to live in the present. All those things are true because you recognize that results are nice, but they're not required for happiness.
Yeah. So it's really about encouraging, right? It's about understanding the fear for what it is and practicing feeling the fear, but doing it anyway, and practicing that muscle of courage, right?
Yes. And I would say courage with awareness, because, I remember when that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, came out, which is a classic. And I remember saying to myself, well, I can't do it anyway. I didn't know how to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because without the awareness of how fear actually works in you, it's why I created what I call the Wheel of Fear and the Wheel of Freedom. The Wheel of Fear explains how you process fear and how you live inside that fear. And freedom, the Wheel of Freedom, shows you how to move beyond it, right? So once you see how the Wheel of Fear works and you see where you interact with it, where you play with it, where you agree to it, then you can jump on what I call the Wheel of Freedom. But for most of my life, I read the books. I knew the right answers. Feel the fear and do it anyway. It was like, one, I didn't know it was fear, right? I didn't know it was fear. I thought there was something wrong with me. And two, I didn't know how to do it anyway. I didn't have support. I didn't have faith in myself. I believed my, quote unquote, negative self-talk, right? So yes, do we want to feel the fear and do it anyway? Yes. But there are way too many of us, and I think the majority of the population of the world, even though they know that that is right and true, fear is so seductive and fear is so invisible and such a trickster. It knows everything you know. It's as smart as you are, educated as you are, spiritual as you are. The more you learn, the more it learns, because it wants to keep you safe. So it doesn't care if you get more spiritual. It will use your spirituality against you. I mean, how many people do we know that meditate an hour a day and are still jerks? Right? So all of those things are tools, but you're the only one in charge of you waking up, right? I can give you tools. You can give me tools. We can give you awareness. We can, tell you stories about how to wake up, but you are the one that has to decide, right? We all have to personally decide. I am willing to do what's necessary for me to live the life, what I say my soul intended. I am willing to live the life my soul intended. I want to live the life my soul intended. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to face whatever I must face. I'm willing to feel whatever I must feel on my quest to live the life my soul intended. Mm. And so that I know for most of my life, I didn't have the support I needed. I didn't have the understanding of what that meant. I read books all about loving yourself. But how do you love yourself if you never loved yourself? How do you give yourself compassion if you never give yourself compassion? Again, you can read the book, but and have the awareness, but to take the action, to get it in your skin, to get it in your bones, to make it part of who you are. That's why there's so many people out there that, know what to say, and they seem really smart and aware, and they've read all the books, like I said, but they actually, when you look at their life, they actually don't live in alignment with what they have read. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not good or bad. It's just part of the pathway. But it's also the trick of the mind that we actually believe when we know something that we're actually going to live that way. Knowing something does not mean you will live it. Knowing is just information. And, and so many times I tell my students, information is your enemy in this instance, because you're just getting more information and you're not embodying anything. So stop, stop right now. And let's talk about, how do you embody? How do you get it into your cells so that you are literally retraining your brain and retraining your body, so that when you have to make a decision, that you're not automatically going to go in the past. You're retraining yourself so that you go, oh, wait a minute. I want to make a decision from the unknown. I want to make a decision from my intuition. I want to make a decision from my true nature. I want to make a decision from my wheel of freedom. I want to make a decision from who I really am. Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Well, that's a different type of decision, right? That's a very different type of decision.
Yeah, exactly. You just said it very well. I want to bring this beautiful conversation into a closure, and I want to wrap it up. So is there anything that you can leave the audience with, a takeaway, your punchline for
yeah, I will. I have gone through, as many people have, horrific experiences. At 14, I was the witness of my mother murdering my father and committing suicide in front of me. I had 3 suicide attempts, 3 DUIs, right? I lived 20 years of hell. And I believed that was who I was. I believed that there was something that was unfixable about me. Because when you witness your father murder your mother, then there's something really wrong with your DNA and your blood, right? And that's my father. And what I know to be true from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head and beyond is that there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with me. There was actually nothing wrong with my father except fear. So if we can embrace, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just fear. If we can use that as our mantra when we are beating ourselves up, putting ourselves down, taking our bad press and believing it. Wait a minute, what if there's nothing wrong with me? What if this is just fear? And that is the beginning of freedom. That is the beginning of you stepping into your true nature so you can live the life your soul intended.
Wow, Rhonda, what a story. This is really profound, what you've been through and where you came and the journey that you walked through. And I can totally resonate with your personal story. I also have quite a tragic, profound childhood in that way. And, it's part of the initiation to become who you are. And I also for years felt broken and unwanted and unworthy. And it's been really a journey of healing to get into where I am at. And I just want to give that hope to the audience to know that no matter what you have been through,
No matter what, yeah.
No matter what, even if you sit in prison because you've done something really kind of wrong,
yes,
you are still loved. You are worthy. There is an army of angels looking over you, loving you each and every moment. And there's never too late to make a different decision, a different choice.
That's right. Yeah, you are ultimately always forgiven, right? There's, I think, for me, most of my, those 20 years I was in hell, forgiveness was unavailable to me, right? I thought it was unavailable to me. I thought I didn't deserve it, right? I thought I didn't, well, you've done all those things, you don't get to forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many people, forgiveness feels insurmountable. But if we are moving towards self-acceptance, if you want to feel more alive, if you want to make more money, if you want to feel more in love with yourself and accept yourself more, forgiveness will become a daily event. And that is one of the pathways, one of the things we must master, because we're always going to, not be perfect. So we're always going to say, oh God, I wish I didn't say that, right? We're always going to have those moments.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can look at ourselves with love and go, oh, look at her. Isn't she just, oh, look at her. Look at her. And know that there's nothing wrong. You can really brand that mantra in your heart. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just fear. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just fear. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just fear. Then I do believe you've slightly opened the door so that you can walk through and make a different decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rhonda, for the light that you are shining in the world and for your forgiveness that really radiates from your heart. And I can feel it because I also had to forgive quite a lot. And I know how it feels. I know how profound it is and how it changes you. And it's only really when you forgive yourself, you can forgive others fully. So thank you for that beautiful message that you shared with us today. And I know that you also have a gift to share with the audience. So do you want to speak about that?
Yeah. Yes. I've talked a couple times today about stretch, risk, and die, the model that we use to help you move beyond that fear and start taking the risks that, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so I'd love to gift that course, that masterclass. It's 3 videos of 15 minutes each. It's super easy. It has worksheets. It has everything that you need. It has audio, video, everything you need in order for you to understand how to start taking stretch, risk, and dies. Now, a way to think of that is if you've ever had a to-do list, 10 things on it, and you start checking things off and you skip 5 and 6 all the time, then that 5 and 6 are either a stretch, risk, or die. So when you go through these 3 videos, again, 15 minutes long, you're going to start being able to put those things that maybe you've judged yourself about, maybe you've put yourself down about, or maybe you've been quote unquote procrastinating about, you're going to be able to put those in the stretch, risk, and die model and start seeing how you can start moving in that direction, whatever that is, whether it's writing a book, becoming a professional speaker, falling in love, healing your marriage, healing your past, etc. So go to fearlessliving.org/risk, RISK. So fearlessliving.org/risk, RISK. and put your name and email in and grab Stretch, Risk, or Die.
Right. We're going to have the link here below. So go ahead and download it. And that will be such an amazing helping hand in your journey, moving into the fullness of your being. And right.
Love that fullness of your being. Yes. You know, I had a therapist years ago say, Rhonda, you need to occupy yourself from your bones to your skin. What is inside of you must be all of you. And I remember when she said that to me, you know, I was like, what? Fill myself up with me? What? And, you know, I repeat from Mary, that therapist who said that to me many decades ago, we must fill ourselves up with us instead of filling ourselves up with what our mother thinks or our husband thinks or our best friend thinks or our cousin thinks or the world thinks. You got to fill yourself up with you. And then you can stand against, and you can put boundaries up, right? You can do what's ever needed because you are inside of you. You own you. So yes, the fullness of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Blessings your way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and ciao, everyone. Until the next time, lots of love from me, Nuna Isima, your host. Bye now.